I'm not a parent, I'm allowed to have favorites. This is something that I tell people when they ask me about my favorite sister. This is what I tell people when they ask me about all this other stuff, right? Except that when it comes to being a plant parent, I don't have favorites. When it comes to being a two-time book parent, I feel like I'm not supposed to have favorites. But I think that one of my kids has been getting a lot of attention. And of course, that would be drink water and mind your business. And I started to think, ooh, if I have a favorite, then I have a least favorite. And I'm going to talk to you about my favorite chapter, my least favorite chapter, and the chapter that I needed right after the intro. And welcome back to another episode of the Daily Donna with me, your host, Dr. Donna Oriolo, sex and relationship therapist in the Washington, D.C. metro area, author of Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing self-esteem. We are about to have one of those conversations that actually started out on the book tour. So let me tell you this. When you have a book tour, like I think it was at the book baby shower, because that's what I decided to do because I'm not having no kids. A conversation for another day. And because I knew I wasn't having no kids, I decided that I wanted to have a baby shower, complete with baby shower games and all that other stuff where I get to be kind of like the bringer of the reason that we're celebrating, right? So I had this baby bottle and I told people, put in your questions. Let me answer whatever questions you have. And they could ask anything both about the book and about sex and relationships because this therapist don't stop being a therapist just because there's a book to sell. And a lot of those things still ended up in the book anyway, because a therapist is a sex therapist who gonna bring it. Stop playing. So I thought I would give you a little taste of some of the questions that I received and the ones that kind of knocked me off my feet a bit, which was, what is your favorite chapter? What is the chapter you need? But I'm going to throw in a little razzle dazzle and also tell you my least favorite chapter. And I'm going to give you all the whys because I believe that tea is meant to be what? Spilt. So let's start with the favorite. What is my favorite chapter? I was thinking about this. And I think that is probably one of the chapters that may not be anyone else's favorite but mine. Is chapter 3. What do you value? Or do you value self-esteem? So why is it my favorite? It's my favorite because it was one of the first chapters written. I know that like the way people write a book is different. I wrote chapter 1, then I knew the outline. I wrote chapter 1, then I wrote chapter 3. I skipped right over 2. 2 was the one that I wrote back later. Why chapter 3 is my favorite is because this is the chapter where I got to explore more about values. And it's the thing that I end up having, I would say, the deepest conversations with my clients about, because people will come to therapy and say that they want to work on self-esteem. Good, heard, love it. And they don't actually value it. They don't know what it means for their lives. They don't think about it. They just want to improve it, but they don't value it because they've never been taught to. If someone tells you that your self-esteem is not important, that it's selfish work in a way, then it's also very easy to sort of get mired in the BS and end up throwing stuff to the side that you don't need to throw to the side, right? Throwing away self-esteem is the essentially throwing yourself to the side. And a lot of us have been taught to throw ourselves to the side because you're supposed to be doing more productive things, like being productive, like doing a job, like making that money, honey, right? Like these things become the main thing to judge yourself by. And so people will also say that their self-esteem is good as long as they make money. Their self-esteem is good as long as they have a partner. Their self-esteem is good if they have a kid, right? Like that if you have this like trifecta, as it were, of what you're supposed to have in order to be seen as good, deemed valuable or good in society, then that means that you have good self-esteem. And when they have it and they're still not feeling it, they're wondering why. And sometimes it's not just the lack of practice towards self-esteem, but because you don't really feel it, you faking it. And fake it works, but you have to make it, and fake it till we make it. A lot of people don't make it. So writing this chapter felt the most like shedding some of the stuff, because I'm a first gen, firstborn daughter. Um, and I feel like my life has also, in many ways, been about my performance and my work and being a good example. They were tied to my self esteem, and I didn't know how to value self esteem and myself beyond my productivity and my performance for others. So having to rework and let go and revisit, that was the hard work. And that felt like the work that, I mean, it's ongoing work. No work ever really stops. So I was just like, oh, that was the chapter where I felt like I got to just say my piece and put it on the page. And I felt like it's one of the more valuable ones for folk who actually value their don't value self-esteem, and certainly don't value themselves in their self-esteem. All right, moving to number 2. What is my least favorite chapter? Baby, we staying in the front part of the book. Chapter 4 is my least favorite. I mean, really, it's a tie. It's a tie between chapters 1 and chapter 4. Just, when I originally wrote chapters 1 through 3, they were academic in nature. And chapter 1, I was just like, I was satisfied with it, but I was just like, it doesn't, like, I feel like other people's self-help books have like this zing at the beginning, and mine is giving slow burn, right? It's giving, we're gonna build up. But that doesn't make it my least favorite. Chapter 4 is my least favorite because it's funny, because it's also the one that sounds the most like me. It's my most relaxed, I would say. Like it was almost even the start of the relax, but it wasn't even the 4th chapter written. I think I wrote chapter 1, chapter 3, chapter 2, and then I may have done lots of chapter 5 first, started to do a heavy outline of 6 and 7, and then went back to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is my least favorite because it feels incomplete. And I recognize that for me, it feels incomplete because so much of my knowledge, my area of expertise is in colorism and texturism. It is in how those things impact you mentally, emotionally, and sexually. That was my dissertation. That was my work. And if you would like to see me talk more about colorism, texturism, and all that, I mean, technically you could ask, but I'm probably going to do it anyway, regardless of whether or not you ask. So it's just like one of those things where it's just like it felt incomplete because there was so much more that I wanted to say. There was so much more that I could have said, but it also felt like a whole book on its own. So I feel like at some point I just told myself, you just have to stop. You just stop here. And so I did. And when I was looking back into my Google files, I realized that I had started a book back in 2017 on colorism and texturism. And I was going to go through all these levels. It's a very nice little outline manuscript. Maybe I'll return to it. We'll see. And finally, which one is the chapter I needed the most? This is where you get the tea. This is where I really spill. The chapter that I needed the most is chapter 7. Self-talk is communication. Because high key, I'm still a hypocritical therapist. Sometimes I be talking to myself outside of my neck, out the side of my neck. Sometimes I say things that I'm just like, hey, that's mean. But the part is that I got to the point where I can say, hey, that's mean. Hey, that's not kind. Hey, that's not true. Where I can ask myself the question, is that thing that you said true? And is it necessary? Is it helpful in this moment? High key, a lot of us, we say things to ourselves and we are mad freaking rude. We would never say it to somebody else, but we do say it to ourselves. We would never treat other people this way, but we do treat ourselves this way. And so for me to be able to note that that's the chapter that I needed to be like, all right, girl, what are we doing different? Because the way that you talk to yourself is just not going to work for me. I kind of like that. And I find that I have needed that chapter now more than ever because, again, another conversation for another day. I think that a lot of us feel in many ways that we may be insane or that something is wrong with us when really something is wrong with what we are seeing outside, that the systems are moving and things are collapsing in a way that may have us feeling unsafe while we're still expected to perform rote behaviors like going to work, doing like it's like you have to live regular life in an irregular time, and it can feel disconcerting. And sometimes it's just like, is it me? Am I the problem? Am I the drama? Do I am It's me. It must be me. And it's not you. Unnatural times come mean that you're going to have some, I would say, unnatural behaviors. You are reacting well to extraordinary times. So extraordinary ways of behaving are par for the course. Now, back to this self-talk is communication. Um, I have had to I revisit this chapter specifically because of the five languages for self-love: physical touch, receiving gifts, quality time, acts of service, and words of affirmation. Now, I know now that the five love languages, some people had like debunked it, but I still find it to be useful in the way that people talk about and think about themselves. And I enjoy, like, when I feel like I'm disconnected from me, and there's in extraordinary times, feeling a little bit disconnected, I find that going back to this chapter helps me to reconnect with me, to make sure that my communication with myself is on point, and that it's just not like, I feel like people just say things because they know the right things to say, but there's no action that supports the thing. So your words are weak because you're not engaging the core of your behavior to match it, right? It's the same thing. Like, look, I took Pilates for almost a year, and it was one of those things where they constantly tell you to engage your core, that you won't have properly strong arms or properly strong legs if you don't also engage your core. That your core is very important to the work. And I would say that the core of the work in many ways is not just what you say, it's what you do, right? Like, people keep telling you that talk is cheap. And yet we don't want to remember that piece of it. But the thing is, a lot of us, we do cheap talk to ourselves. We do actions with other people, but we talk cheap to us. So we can tell ourselves, I'm gonna get up at 6:30 in the morning. You tell it to yourselves, but then you don't do it. You don't keep your own word to yourself. Your talk is cheap. It's not backed up by actions. So you tell yourself that you'll get up at 6:30, but you know, the same way that I know, that you're a liar. You're a person who tells fibs. You're a person who gives excuses because you're not getting up at 6:30. Now, I'm not saying that you're not tired. I'm not saying that there's not a lot going on outside and sometimes the bed feels like the safest place to be, right? I didn't say that. What I'm saying is that you promised to do something that now you're not doing. You got to do something different. Your behavior, your comportment, the way you carry yourself, what you do next, that also communicates. And you can't just tell yourself, I'm good, like, I like myself, I care for myself, and then don't do no actions that back that up. Chapter 7 is about the full breadth of communication, which is more than just the words that you say, but the way that you behave. So don't just talk that talk, walk that walk. And that is a chapter that I feel like I have needed, that I needed to remind myself of, because it's easy to get caught up in, let me do all these things while leaving behind, or let me say that I do all these things while actually leaving behind the actions that support the words that you say, specifically to yourself. I think that because other people will hold us accountable, we will make ourselves accountable to others, but we allow the accountability for ourselves to kind of just fall by the wayside. Anyway, those are the favorite, the least favorite, and the most needed. Now, like I said, I'm a book parent. I feel like the book's feelings are not hurt because I named my favorite, right? So if you read the book, tell me, what's your favorite chapter or your favorite line. Just add it to the chat below. And if you haven't read the book, when you gonna read it? Inquiring minds want to know. I happen to be the mind that is inquiring. I just want to know, because I would like us to be able to have like a group discussion, a read along conversation. I did a read along. I should do another one. Yeah. Yeah. All right, you are the bee's knees. I'm Dr. Donna Oriolo. This is the Daily Donna, and we have our conversations with a therapeutic edge. Go ahead and grab the book, and I will see you when tomorrow because this is the Daily Donna. Bye.